Women devotees is our next topic. So under this you can take down a question. The question is, how women devotion was associated with Bhakti tradition. Give example. So from this topic we will see that the most impressive feature of the tradition was the presence of women. Andal, a woman alvar who composed the religious songs that were widely sung, and Andal considered herself as a beloved of Vishnu. That means here we are talking about, like in the previous topic we just said that women or this low caste people were not welcomed by the Brahmins, but here in Alvars you can see the most followed, or we can say one of the women devotees who became very famous was the Andal. And she not only became famous, she even wrote songs in praise of God, and all these religious songs were still sang these days. And she expresses herself that she is one of the greatest devotee of Vishnu. Another such example was the Karyakal Amayar. Okay, she was a Nayanar, a devotee of Shiva. She adopted the way of extreme practice in order to get or attain God. She followed a very difficult task, or we can say a very difficult style. Now her compositions were preserved within the Nayanar traditions. Now when you talk about her style, you can see a part is given there in your source as a demon. Now this demon exactly expresses about the Karyakal Amayar, in which she was described as what, a female demoness with bulging veins. She had a protruding eyes. Protruding eyes means the eyes which almost came up with a teeth. With teeth means just like the teeth was also protruding out. And she had a shrunken stomach. You can see in the images of the idol itself. Then she had hair which is red in color and a jutting teeth, lengthy shins. Now when you say shins means that legs. Okay, she has got a very lengthy legs and all, and extending till the ankles. Then when she prays, she doesn't sing just quietly. She will shout and wails while wandering in the forest. That means in order to be with the God, she will shout. Shout means whatever. If she is praising the God, she will be shouting in her loud voice, and then she will be walking in the forest while wandering in the forest, as it is said. This is the forest of Analkatu, now name of the forest where she made her home, which is the home of our father, means Shiva. Now she said that Shiva lives in this forest, Analkatu, and this is the area where she moves around. Okay, she hardly eats, it seems. Then she with his matted hair thrown in all 8 directions and with cool limbs. Now she dances with God, as it is said, right? So now this is all about the Karyakal Amayar. So after this we will move on to the next topic. Our next topic is relations with the state. For this you can take down a question, and the question is, examine how and why the rulers tried to establish connections with the traditions of Nayanars. So in this part we will try to see why the kings, they try to keep a close connection with Nayanars. So let's see what is this, or why they have done all this. So first of all, when we talk about the connection, we come into this one type of ruling era, that is Chola. So let's see what happened first of all from the beginning. Now first, we all know that Nayanar and Alvar saints had a lot of respect among the people, especially Velal peasants. Now Velal means these are the peasants from an area, Velal peasants. So many rulers, they try to get their support, the support of the Nayanars. Then in order to get their support, one example is given that just to get the support of the Nayanars, the Chola kings got magnificent temples built to seek means just to get the support of the Nayanas. Then they put up stone and metal statues or idols for or inside the temples, after which they gave a concrete shape to the imaginary saint points. And they start, the poet saints or saint poets, they had composed hymns in the languages of the common people. Now the Chola kingdoms or the Chola rulers, what did they do is they also started singing the hymns in Tamil language. Now as they were sang in Tamil language, now because it's a common language, many people came to know. Now they also took responsibility in combining the Bhakti songs, or we can say they started to combine all these songs which are sang by the Nayanas, and it was compiled in a book. The name of the book, it is just given that Bhakti songs as it is. Now you can see Tevaram, right? The kings introduced singing of Tamil Shiva hymns in the temples. Now initiative and the text, that is Tevaram. Further, one inscription evidence was there, that is in 1945, and evidence from 1945 CE says that Chola ruler, that is Prantaka the first, had started or built a metal statue of, as you can see in the book, it is already given there, a metal statue of Saint Poet Appa Samandaram or Sabandaran and Sunandar in the Shiva temple, and these idols were shown to the people during processions. So all these are done just to get some kind of support, and because Alvars and Nayanas were considered as one of the most important devotees who is really connected with the god, and if they are kept happy or if they are made happy, they can blessings can be earned from this Alvars and Nayanas. The Virashaiva tradition in Karnataka. So this is the next topic. So for this topic you can take down a question. The question is, who were Lingayats? ? Mention one idea that they challenged. So when we go through this part, we came to know that a new movement emerged in Karnataka in the 12th century. It was initiated by Vasavana. He was a Brahmana. He was earlier a Jaina and a minister in the court of Cholukya king. He had many followers who were called as Virashaivas, or the heroes of Shiva. They were also called as Lingayats, that is, wearers of the linga, means they used to put on a linga. That is why they are known as Lingayats. Now, these Lingayats have certain beliefs or principles. Now, the first principle is that they worshipped Shiva and then in his manifestation as a linga, means they worship Shiva, and because of that they put on a symbol, or they carry the symbol of a linga with them every time. They usually wore a small linga in a silver case. Now whatever they wear, they hung it over their left shoulder. Now when you talk about this is their practice, so they used to carry a small linga and which is hung over their left shoulder, as it is said. Now they believe that they would be united with Shiva after their death, and after their meeting with Shiva, they would never return to this world. So this is one of the principles or beliefs of the Lingayats. Then the third belief or principle is that they did not participate the funeral rites like cremation or cremation. They ceremonially buried their dead. Now being Hindu, right, followers of Shiva means they are Hindus. Now according to Hindu religion, whenever somebody dies, they have to cremate the body, burn the body, right? But here they don't practice that cremation. What do? Is they bury that body. Now they did not believe in the caste system. That is their fourth principle or belief. The fifth principle is that they attributed pollution to certain groups of brahmanas. Now when you talk about pollution, means the untouchable thing. Now they attributed this pollution thing was brought up by some brahmanas. Now when you say brahmanas, remember these people, they were also a follower of a brahmana. Okay, now Vasavana. Now this Vasavana's idea and the other brahmanas, they have a different way of thinking. Now we came to know that the brahmana were the person who brought out the ideas of caste system, but this group did not do it. That is why it is said that they attributed pollution to certain groups of brahmanas. The sixth point is that they repudiated the theory of rebirth. They don't exactly believed in it, but they say that if, when and where they will be born, they are not sure. But if they are, if they meet God after the death, that means they will not come in the world once again. That means they had this question. They had a question, that is rebirth really possible? So that is what they don't believe exactly in rebirth. Then they also, the last thing that they really practice is that they encourage post-puberty marriage and also the remarriage of the widows, which is just against the Hindus. Or during this time, Hindus, they don't want the ladies to be remarried. That means if they are widows, they cannot be married. Exactly like post-puberty marriages were also not possible. But for them, for this Lingayats, they had broken all the things which was followed by the Brahmanas. That means in one way we can say that they dislike the Brahmanical way of living. Now the next topic is religious ferment in North India. So take down a question under this. How was the religious ferment in North India? Question mark. How dominance of Brahmanas was reduced over there? So when we talk about ferment, means how this religious thing started. Okay, ferment. Then how another question that is also added here is how this Brahmanas, the dominance of Brahmanas, reduced slowly. So let's see. As we go through this part, we came to know that the rulers of North India, they used to construct temples and deities like Vishnu and Shiva were worshipped over there. And then the historians, they did not find anything that is resembling the composition of Alvar and Naina saints until 14th century in North India. In this regard, some scholars they had a different view, that during this period many Rajput kingdoms came into existence in North India. So Brahmanas had an important place in all the Rajput kingdoms, and they performed secular and religious functions. So from this we can also come into one conclusion, that is, when this Rajput king or Rajput kingdom was going on, they disliked the ideas of Nainas and Alvars. Because of that, we never found some resemblance of Nainas and Alvars, or the followers of Nainas and Alvars, because Nainas and Alvars, they dislike the Brahmanical way of living, or Brahmanical texts, those who follow Brahmanical style of following, that is the caste system, then the high class, low class, poor people, untouchables. So this Alvars and Nainar way of living was not found in these areas, northern India. That means that time Brahmins were quite strong out here. But as the time went by, okay, slowly and slowly, when the religious leaders, now at the same time when the religious leaders were gaining ground, so all these leaders, whoever were gaining ground, suddenly there was some kind of change. That is, those leaders, those leaders, that means traditional leaders or regional or religious leaders, those who do not follow exactly what Brahmins said, okay, or those who do not follow exactly the Brahmanical way of living, they were gaining more importance in this part. Now these leaders include the Nath, Yogis, Siddhas. Many of them belong to artisans group, including weavers, and their importance was also increasing with the development of organized craft production. Then demand for this production increased with the emergence of new urban centers, and with the spread of long distance trade with the Western and Central Asia. Slowly and slowly, the way the Brahmins used to guide them, they stopped following it. Now we had this, like, you may think like, what is going here, means what does I really want to tell you. Now see here, exactly what happened was this. Now some group of people like Nath, Yogis and Siddhas, exactly these are one of the Brahmins, but they don't follow exactly what does the typical orthodox Brahmin follows, that is pollution thing and all. They really disregard these things. And then another thing is that because development was going on, weavers were coming up, then demand for clothes came up. Now why demand for clothes came up? Because we are developing. There were lots of people who were moving out to different places. So as they moved to different places, different crafts were learned, different production was learned, and looking at that, there were many demands. And looking at this demand, the Brahmanas, because if you are a Brahmana, you have to create yourself, or you have to do some type of works so that you can also mix up with the people. So exactly what happened here is that during this period, the Brahmanas, they have to mingle up with different types of societies. So the weaver were low caste, there were some kind of sculptors, they are also low caste. So a Brahmana cannot follow that typical Brahmanical style, so he have to forgive, or he have to just forget all those old system and have to come up with new ideas. So he came with new ideas, and thus old Brahmanical structure was really out of practice or going down. Then another thing that really says that why Brahmanical dominance declined was because of this. Many new leaders or religious leaders, they start challenging the authority of Vedas, means whatever was written in the Vedas, the Brahmins started to challenge that. How could you prove that this is right? How could you prove that this is there? Means many things they started to challenge and started to give their ideas in language of common masses. So now before, most of the things which was written in any Vedas was in Sanskrit, and only Brahmins were able to read and write this Sanskrit, and they hardly say or they hardly share what is written in the book with the crowd. But the new religious leaders, what did they do is, first of all, they challenged the Vedas, and secondly, whatever was there, they started to convey this in the common language, right? Now the olden days, Brahmins, they just used to chant the prayer in Sanskrit language, and thus we have to just listen to it, thinking that yes, they said something very great. But now this new leaders or new religious leaders, they chant in Sanskrit, as well as they start to explain it. And when they start to explain, they started to challenge many ideas. Then gradually these languages started to develop over the centuries into the ones that is used today. That means Sanskrit was there, yes, but slowly and slowly, because they started to translate it into common language, and this common language can be anything, so people started to follow the common language more than the Sanskrit. So slowly and slowly this language started to be used at present. Although these leaders were popular, they were unable to win over the support of ruling elites. So though the new religious leaders could bring out many things, many ideas, but the kings and all, they do not support them. So you can see at the same time the coming of Turks, that means Turks came to India, and as they came, they established the Delhi Sultanate in 13th century. Now with the establishment of Delhi Sultanate, there was decline of great extent. That means many things, that is the Rajput kingdoms, the Brahmanas, or whatever was there during this time, during 13th century, started to decline because Delhi Sultanate was taken over by the Turks, right? And this changes also influence our culture and religion. Now the advent of the Sufis in India, means the coming of Sufis in India, was an important part of such developments. Now as the Sufis came, means as the development of Delhi Sultanate. Now when I say Delhi Sultanate was taken over, means before it was controlled by the Rajput. Now after the coming of Turks, it was named as Delhi Sultanate. Then when they came, basically these are Islam followers. So slowly and slowly people started to know about Islam, and thus people started to forget the Brahmins or Brahmanical way of living. They compare both, and they might found like Brahmanical is much better, so they continued with that. Some they found that Brahmanical is very bad, let us move on to new religion. They came to this new religion, that is the Islam, and because of this there was a decline of the Brahmins, or the Brahmanical way of living was slowly declining.